So I want to talk about cleaning in this video, cleaning audio equipment. So I have this vocal processor that I'm going to show you how to clean. It has some push button switches and some pots, and then also we'll look at the connectors. I'll also show you some different types of pots and switches in case you have to clean those. The materials we're going to need, the cleaning supplies we're going to need, some paper towels. 409 is the cleaner I prefer using for surfaces. So on the front panels, it does really well at cleaning without taking off the silk screen. And then the specialty cleaners we're going to use are all made by a company called Keg. So this is the Deoxit D5. This is the red can. This to me is mostly a cleaner. I'll use it first in all cases. And then two other versions of it, the G5, the gold, and the F5, the green. The G5 goes on after the cleaner, and it cleans a little bit, but it also enhances and protects and lubricates. So it's there in the finish. And then the green, the F5, is for faders or potentiometers. Same thing, we'll always use the red D5 first, and then one of these two to protect afterwards. Starting off, we just got to open the piece of equipment up. It is possible at times, particularly if you're working on a console, to not open it up. So I'm going to show you first not opening it up, and then we'll open it up and look at it. So we have some potentiometers. These just happen to not have knobs on it. This is just something I grabbed out of the back of my workshop. I'm pretty sure it still works. I just don't use it very often. It was for when I did a lot of video recordings where we had a narrator, a live narrator, and we needed this. So I would start by spraying in the D5, the red. So if you can take the knobs off easily, that's worth doing. If you're doing a big console though, that might take a lot of time. It is possible to spray underneath it. One thing to note about all of these is that they dry really slowly, and that's intentional. But it means that when you spray it, so I want to spray it so I can try and get underneath the knob. The older versions of these have a sprayer on top that lets you choose low, medium, or high amount of spray. The new ones don't. I haven't used the new ones yet, so I'm not sure how well they work. So I'm going to try spraying underneath here. And I've got it set on the low setting because I don't want very much coming out. Notice it's all wet around this. So that's going to have to be cleaned off. So it's important that you note whenever you're doing this that you're going to make a mess. And it's kind of a greasy a little bit because it has a little bit of lubricant in it. So it can be hard to clean off. So you want to make sure you take time to clean it off. If you do this on top of a console, it can be really, really, really messy. So just be aware of that. So now I'm just going to move it a couple times. And most of what I sprayed on didn't get in there, but some probably did. And this helps it work around inside the potentiometer. If the potentiometer was particularly stiff ahead of time, you should start feeling it be a little different. Even on this one, which wasn't too bad to start with, I definitely feel it different now. It moves much easier. You might even hear it sound differently as you're moving it. Not in the audio path, but just physically, the sound of it is going to be different. The feel of it is going to be different. If you spray that, and this is whether you do it here or inside, and it gets gummier, it feels gummier, that means you've loosened a lot of gunk, and you need to spray it again until it gets nice and smooth. So that's the first step of cleaning process, is to use the red, the D5. And then if that's all I was going to do, I'd clean this all up. But I wanted to go ahead and do a protection phase, a step for protection. So that's going to be the F5, the fader F5. It says faders on it, but it's for faders, linear faders, as well as potentiometers. Same process. Just give a little bit of a spray in there. And rotate it. And I'm turning it 20 or so times. The more you can do it, the better. If it's particularly dirty ahead of time, I'll turn it all the way, spray it, turn it all the way the other way and spray it, and then rotate it. We're just trying to get that solution, which most of it, remember, didn't get inside the potentiometer, trying to get it moved around as much as we can. So that's good. And I doubt it'll come across in the video, but it takes a little force to turn this one, not this one at all. So there's definitely a difference just in what we did. And now I just want to clean that off. Sometimes you can just wipe it off and it'll come pretty clean. Sometimes you might need to use something like the 409 to really clean it. Let me see if I can get this on the video. I don't know if you can see on the video, but there's a little opening in the panel below here, and I can see wetness there. So it's actually gotten in there too. So this cleaner is going to be lots of different places inside now. So if it is something like a recording console where everything's going down inside of it, that can create a huge mess. So you need to be really careful about it. Something like this, it should be okay. Just make sure you wipe it all around. Now the ideal is that we not clean through the panel. So worst is clean over the knobs. Next step better is to spray, take the knob off, spray inside. You'll get a little bit better inside to the potentiometer. But best would be to actually open the piece of equipment up. So we're going to do that. And I keep lots of little Tupperwares and bowls and things around to put screws in. So I have, this is a container that electrical tape came in. These are just tiny little Tupperware type things. They have some of these too that are dollar store little bowls. Actually big lots, but $1 each. It's really good to have things like that around so that you can keep your screws together as you're taking things apart. Now on this one there are a couple screws in the front. No, I guess not. Oh yeah, this one actually comes apart a little more difficult than most. Sometimes taking apart the piece of equipment is actually more work than anything else you're going to do, whether you're repairing it or cleaning it. Dismantling it can be really, really time consuming. In this case, I also have to take off these screws on the XLRs. And that's a smaller screwdriver. That out of the way. Now we can start inside of our piece of equipment. And now we're going to look for places where we can get inside and again get that cleaner inside much easier, much better. So let me zoom in, look at this. So here are those potentiometers on the front. This is the one that I cleaned. And it is a little wet, which is good. It tells us that we got it all the way through. And I don't know if you can see, but it's also a little wet and greasy along here because of that lubricant. So here are my other pots. So notice these, there's a nice big hole in the back. That's a good way to get cleaner in. This one that has two pots connected together, it's a dual potentiometer. Doesn't have that same hole, but has some cracks there that look like they'd be a good way to get the cleaner in. So I'm just going to spray all these. I'm not flooding them, I'm just spraying a bit. We have some switches here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look for an opening. Spray those. Again, if I had to, I could spray those from the front. Now this one, I'll get over there. This one right here, let me zoom out a bit. The wrong way. This switch is actually hidden under this circuit board, but I can see it. See right through there, so I can actually get to it. And I'm getting this on the PC board, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt it. Can zoom out all the way again. So now those have all been sprayed. I missed this one. Just about out of my D5 in this can. And now the same process. I just have to the more time you can spend doing this, moving them around, the better you're going to be. So we really want to work that cleaner around. That's the one we already did. Do these other ones. And they should start to feel like that first one did. Moving really easy. Again, you can see all the wetness this has created. That's why you have a roll of paper towels around. If I was doing this on anything other than my workbench, I would have paper towels underneath it. A lot of times I'll have to do this at a recording studio, and you want to make sure you have something down below to catch it, so you're not dripping it all over. Because again, it's not just wet, it is a little greasy feeling. There are also a couple potentiometers on the back, so I want to spray those. And this is empty, so I'm going to pause for a second and get more. So here's a brand new can. I have a huge stock of this stuff because I use it regularly. And the straw comes taped on. Now, one thing you might notice is that the straw I've been using has a little bend to it. So I actually put that bend in it. I used a heat gun, you could use a hairdryer if you wanted, to heat it up and bend it, because it works really well for me to have that bend in it. So I'm just going to take that straw off the old can, because again, I like that bend. The new, if you order the new kind, and I think it's still possible to order the old style cans, although they cost more, the new style cans have a radically different straw on them. So I haven't used them because I still have stock. So I've heard they don't work really well. So give those a spray. There's another switch there. Same process, work through moving those. Wipe off the excess a little bit. So that's step one. That's the cleaning. Now, one of the things we did when we cleaned is that we took off all the lubricant that was originally put in by the manufacturer. And it's really important to have something like that in there, something to replace it. So that's what the other two sprays do, is they're going to protect and lubricate everything. The gold is for switches. The green is for pots and faders. So I'm going to go ahead and do the pots and faders first. And I never use this. I've never used these on anything but low. All my sprays I went on low. And I'm going to do the same process. Spray these all. Just the potentiometers, right? Because faders get something different. These in the back. And again, work through rotating them. I do about 20 turns each. And if any of them don't feel great yet, like this one doesn't quite feel as good as the others. So I'm going to give it another spray of cleaner. That feels a lot better. And I'll give it a spray of the F5. Now that feels much better. I did also get some of the cleaner on the knob itself. Either it was on my hands or it bled through. So clean a little bit. I'm not going to do a huge cleaning yet of everything because I still have to do the gold for the switches. So I'm going to do that. So that takes care of the switches and the pots. On this unit, there's one other thing I want to do. We have some connectors. And might as well go through the connectors while we're here. They need the same sort of cleaning process. So I'm going to, again, start with the red. Spray into each hole of the XLRs. And then into the 1/4 inch just on its own. And then there are a couple ways you can clean these. Probably the easiest way is just to grab a connector. So particularly on the 1/4 inch, just grab a connector, clean in and out. Now, if you have important normal throughs, so notice on this jack, let me zoom in, I'll show you a bit about that. So when I plug in, these pieces that are bent in a little bit, that's coming across, that's what actually connects to the connector here, to the plug. When it's not plugged in, so this piece of metal up at the top is connected to the plug right now. There's another set of contacts below it that once I unplug from the jack, those same places that were connecting to the plug are now connected to these other 3 points. Those are normal throughs or switching contacts. In this case, that doesn't really do anything, but there are cases where it would. If you have a send and return, anything like that, you want to make sure you spray that as well. So plug something in and then spray it to get some cleaner in there. So one way again is to plug the jack in and work through it. And I would do the same thing for the XLRs. Plug an XLR connector in and use that to help. It's mostly just pushing around that cleaner. The other option, and the way I prefer, is to use a special cleaning tool. So what I like to use is this special cleaning brush. And particularly on female XLRs, there's nothing really that works as well as this. So it fits in there, you spin it around, gives it a really nice clean. And again, this is after I've sprayed the red D5 in. And I use the same tool to go around the pins of the male. And also, I'll typically use those for 1/4 inch as well, because I like the brush helping to scrub in there a bit. And then, just like switches, these connectors get the gold. And I'll do a quick brush, not nearly as much as I did before, because I just want to help move it around with the gold. So for a unit like this, that would be my cleaning process for all the potentiometers and switches. Notice I've got stuff all over the place still. So now I have to sort of clean up my cleaner. And this is where I'll use the 409. So any moisture that is left on the board, I want to kind of dry up a bit. Now it's going to dry on its own because this is mostly alcohol, but the lubricant that's in there is going to stay, and it won't hurt anything. It just doesn't look very nice, and it can pull some extra dirt in. So you want to try and clean that off best you can. And I'm wiping a little bit and just dabbing sort of everywhere that I can see it. If you don't do this, it's really more of a cosmetic thing than anything else. But if you're fixing a piece of equipment for someone else and you send it back to them and it looks messy, they're not going to be happy with the job you did. So I've got most of it dried off. Now I'm just going to take a paper towel, spray it with 409. And get all the surfaces wiped down to get rid of any of that residue that's left. I don't usually spray it right on the piece of equipment because then it can get down in the potentiometers and undo all the work we just did. So I just want to wet the cloth and then use the cloth to wipe everything off. And then I'll put it back together and we're done with this one. Now I just want to show you a couple of other things that you might encounter, different switches that you might encounter. Potentiometers are going to look pretty different and going to have different openings in them. You just have to look at each one and see how best you can get some fluid inside of it. So some other switches you might see some toggle switches, look like these. These have really easy big openings at the top. Usually there's nothing in the bottom that helps you. So you can clean these from the outside of the unit as easy as from the inside. So we're just spraying the red in the top, moving it around, and spraying the gold. So these are really easy. You might see some rotary switches. So here's a rotary switch that you might see. This is made by Gray Hill, really high quality one. If you found these to get dirty, then cleaning them is really hard because they are sealed very well. I've never experienced one getting dirty. So you can, if you need to, take them apart, but that's a whole big endeavor. So if you see something like this, you can try spraying just on the outside and see if anything gets in. But again, I've never had to try it, so I don't know. And then a really old style rotary switch looks like this. So I'm going to show you a little bit about this one. Put it in a vise just so we can hold it in place. So if you work on any vintage equipment or have any vintage equipment, this is the kind of rotary switch you'll probably see. And right now I've got the actual part that turns in the vise, and I'm turning the physical switch. So this ring in the middle, that's connected to the knob that you would turn. And you can see there's a little bitty tab there. That's going underneath these little spring pieces. And that's what makes the contact and determines if this point is connected to which of these. So in this case, we have two separate switches here. So that ring stops there and stops here. This one is always touching this ring. And on the other side, this one is always touching this ring. And then this ring goes around and is connected right now to here. Now to here. Now to here. So I'm just moving around how these are connected. So that's the piece that connects to these. All of this is really corroded. So that cleaning process we just went through is not going to work on this. It's not going to be enough. But I would start with the same process. I'm going to spray it and then move it around. We'll see that may help some. It's a little bit shinier, so right there it is. It's a little bit shinier now, but still not very good. So what I use, this is a fiber brush. So it has fiberglass threads in a big bundle on the end that are used to clean things. So I'm going to replace this. It needs a new end. The old one's dirty. Just to show you what a clean one looks like. And then this is going to work really well to clean this. So I'm just going to rub it around. Turning the switch a bit to make sure I get all the areas underneath. You want to be gentle with this. This shouldn't be something you do every day because it is taking a fair amount of material off. But you can see now it's completely different looking now. It's very shiny, lots of clean metal. Now I haven't gotten underneath these little switch points yet. And that's pretty hard to do. I'm just going to try and get the best I can around them. Having this clean metal on top now on that ring is going to help clean them up some. But I'm going to do my best to get underneath. If it was really bad and really important, I've got some other tricks I can use to get underneath there, but I'll save that for another video. That was a pretty quick process. If I really want to do this completely, then it's a much more time-consuming process. So those are some basics of cleaning. I'll put links for these materials. They're just the ones I prefer. I think they work great for this. There are some other options, but I've never found any that work as reliable as the keg materials do.